Good evening and welcome to the evening news. I am Kayode Adebayo. Nigeria and other African countries have written a letter to the group of G20 countries to extend their debt servicing timeline. Reports say they took the step to ensure that debt servicing obligations do not cripple their economies. The plea is contained in a letter by the Ministers of Finance of Ghana, Senegal, and Egypt on behalf of African Ministers of Finance and Central Bank governors, and copied to the chairperson of G20, African Union Managing Director, International Monetary Fund President, and the World Bank. In the letter, the African Ministers of Finance and Central Bank governors asked for immediate liquidity support akin to the global response during the COVID-19 pandemic to help support their economies. The end of the G20 debt service suspension initiative in December 2021 meant that countries are due to resume payment on their debt obligations despite a deteriorating global context, particularly for middle and low-income economies on the African continent. The debt created over $12.9 billion of additional fiscal space for countries in need, and a deferment of this will allow countries space to manage the new emerging crisis while planning for a more orderly debt service obligation process. The Academic Staff Union of Universities has extended its over 5 months rollover strike by another 4 weeks, taking effect from today. President of ASU, Professor Emmanuel Oshodeke, who announced in a statement today in Abuja, said the 1-month extension will give government more time to satisfactorily resolve all the outstanding issues. He noted that the decision was arrived at an emergency National Executive Council meeting of ASU to review developments since its resolution to extend the rollover strike action by another 12 weeks with effect from May 2022. Oshodeke explained that following extensive deliberations and taking cognizance of the government's past failures to abide by its own timelines in addressing issues raised in the 2020 Federal Government ASU Memorandum of Action, it was gathered that NEC observed non-signing of the draft renegotiated 2009 Federal Government ASU agreement more than 1 month after it was concluded by Professor Nimi Briggs-led committee is further tasking the patience of ASU members nationwide. Nigerians who could not register in the continuous voter registration have expressed frustration over the refusal of the Independent National Electoral Commission to extend the exercise. The stranded applicants in interviews with newsmen thumbed down the decision of the Commission to stop the CVR, describing it as a way to disenfranchise them. In preparation for the 2023 general elections, INEC began the nationwide registration in June 2021 to enable Nigerians who had just attained the voting age and others to register. The electoral body planned to terminate the CVR on June 30, 2022. But a civil society group, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, on June 5, filed a suit at the Federal High Court seeking an extension of the exercise beyond that date. Consequently, Justice Mobolaji Olajuwon on June 20 granted an order of interim injunction restraining INEC from stopping the registration exercise. In compliance with the order, the electoral body extended the exercise till July 31. Despite the extension, however, hundreds of applicants have continued to besiege registration centers nationwide in a bid to register before the deadline. The reports indicate that thousands of Nigerians in Niger, Kano, Lagos, Katsina, Benue, Ogun, and Enugu, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, could not participate in the exercise before it ended. But an official deflected the blame for the slow process, saying the applicants only turned up when the exercise was about winding down. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has given a condition to avert its planned nationwide strike. The national publicity of the NARD, Dr. Alpha Yusuf, in an interview with journalists, said the association would shelve its planned strike if the federal government met its demand. The group had, in a communique signed by its NARD, Dr. Dare Ashaya, after its meeting in Lafia, Nasarawa State, giving the government 2 weeks to meet its demands, including the welfare of its members. The doctors are also demanding the immediate implementation and payment of the new hazard allowance and arrears as contained in the circular from the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission. Other demands include the payment of the skipping arrears for 2014, 2015 and 2016 to the serving members and immediate payment of consequential adjustment of minimum wage to its members who have not benefited since it was implemented several years ago. The association spokesman Yusuf explained that the union will meet at the expiration of the 2 weeks ultimatum to review the issues that were raised in the communique, which it released after its National Executive Council meeting. The World Health Organization says an estimated 998,000 children under 5 years in Nigeria are chronic carriers of hepatitis B antigen. This was indicated in the 2021 viral hepatitis scorecard by the World Health Agency, which also showed that not less than 11,679,000 other Nigerians are chronic carriers of viral hepatitis B. The scorecard obtained by journalists looks at the data from the African region but focuses on hepatitis B and C, both of which cause liver cirrhosis and cancer. It also discovered that in 19 countries, more than 8% of the population is infected with hepatitis B, while in 18 countries, more than 1% of the population lives with hepatitis C, as it showed that Nigeria has one of the highest numbers of people who are chronic carriers of the deadliest strain of the virus among the listed 47 member states in the African region. No fewer than 7 persons have again been killed in Jos South local government area of Plateau State by gunmen suspected to be herdsmen. The killing is coming less than 24 hours after 8 other persons lost their lives during a clash between bandits and members of vigilante group in the Wase Council area of the state. The National Publicity Secretary of the Berom Youth Molders Association, Kwang Tetwong, confirmed the latest killings in Jos South local government area, saying 7 people have been confirmed dead at Banda Kuyi community following an attack by Fulani militias. Meanwhile, the authorities of security agencies in the state, including the police and the military special task force in charge of peace maintenance, were yet to issue any public statement regarding the killings as of the time of filing this report. And on sports, after several months of uncertainty that has shrouded Nigeria's Africa Cup of Nations double-header clashes against Guinea-Bissau, the Confederation of African Football has confirmed that the games between the two countries have been postponed. The second phase of the AFCON qualifiers was originally scheduled for September, but it suffered a postponement with the 2022 World Cup in Qatar holding for the first time in the latter part of the year between November and December. According to a statement released by the African body, match days 3 and 4 that were scheduled for September have now been pushed to March 2023 to allow African teams that have qualified for the 2022 World Cup to prepare adequately. This was necessitated by the Executive Committee's commitment to making room for the African nations that have qualified for the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 in November-December 2022 to prepare adequately. This decision came just a month after CAF had postponed the 34th edition of Africa's biggest football showpiece, scheduled to hold in Ivory Coast from June 2023 to January 2024. And on the foreign scene, the first ship carrying grain has left a Ukrainian port under a landmass deal with Russia. Turkish and Ukrainian officials say the ship left the southern port of Odessa early today. Russia has been blockading Ukrainian ports since February, but the two sides agreed a deal to resume shipments. It is hoped the deal will ease the global food crisis and lower the price of grain. Turkey said the Sierra Leone flagged vessel, the Razoni, would dock at the port of Tripoli in Lebanon, adding that further shipments were planned over the coming weeks. The Joint Coordination Center set up in Istanbul under the deal said the ship was carrying some 26,000 tons of corn and was expected to arrive in Turkish waters for inspection tomorrow. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed the departure of the ship and hailed Turkey for its role in working to implement the agreement. Last month's deal, brokered by the UN and Turkey, took 2 months to reach and is set to last for 120 days while it can be renewed if both parties agree. The blockade of Ukraine's grain has contributed to a global food crisis with wheat-based products like bread and pasta becoming more expensive, and cooking oils and fertilizer also increasing in price. Under the terms of the deal, Russia has agreed not to target ports while shipments are in transit, and Ukraine has agreed that its naval vessels will guide cargo ships through waterways that have been mined. According to UN data, Russia and Ukraine jointly account for nearly a third of global wheat supplies. And in 2019, Ukraine accounted for 16% of the world's corn supplies and 42% of sunflower oil. And that ends the evening news on OSBC TV. Please join us at 7 for major reports. Good evening.
Ẹ kú ìrọ̀lẹ́, àkó iṣẹ́ ìní ìròyìn ìrọ̀lẹ́ mú wá. Orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà àtàwọn ojúgbà rẹ̀ ní Áfíríkà ti kọ̀wé sí ìgbìmọ̀ àwọn ogun orílẹ̀-èdè tọrọ̀ ajé wọn gbọ̀rọ̀ gẹ̀jìgẹ̀ láti bá wọn ṣàfikún àkókò tí wọn yóò fi san gbèsè ọrùn kó wa wọn. Ìròyìn fi yé ni pé àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè ilẹ̀ Áfíríkà ọ̀hún gbé ìgbésẹ̀ yìí lọ́nà àti rí i pé gbèsè tí wọ́n ń san náà kò ṣàkóbá fètò ọrọ̀ ajé orílẹ̀-èdè wọn. Àrọwà yìí jẹyọ nínú lẹ́tà tí mínísítà fètò ọrọ̀ ajé ilẹ̀ Ghana tó Senegal àti Egypt kọ lórúkọ àwọn akẹgbẹ́ wọn yòókù látàwọn orílẹ̀-èdè yíká ilẹ̀ Áfíríkà tó fi mọ́ àwọn olórí báǹkì àpapọ̀ tó sì fi ẹ̀dà lẹ́tà ọ̀hún ṣọwọ́ tó lórí àjọ àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè ogún tètò ọrọ̀ ajé wọn rẹsẹ̀ wálẹ̀ tá a mọ̀ sí G20, àjọ ìṣọ̀kan ilẹ̀ Áfíríkà àti olórí àjọ ayánilówó lágbàáyé IMF. Ẹgbẹ́ àwọn olùkọ́ fásitì lórílẹ̀-èdè ti ṣàfikún ìyanṣẹ́lódì olóṣù 5 tí wọ́n gùn lé pẹ̀lú ọ̀sẹ̀ 4 míì bẹ̀rẹ̀ látòní. Olórí ẹgbẹ́ ASUU ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Emmanuel Oṣodeke ló kéde ìgbésẹ̀ yìí lónìí l'Àbújá. Ó láfikún oṣù kan náà yóò fún ìjọba àpapọ̀ láǹfààní láti yanjú gbogbo ọ̀rọ̀ tó wà ńlẹ̀. Ó ní lópin ìpàdé pàjáwìrì ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ ẹgbẹ́ náà láti yanjú ọ̀rọ̀ ọ̀hún ni wọ́n fẹnukò láti ṣàfikún àkókò ìyanṣẹ́lódì náà. Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Oṣodeke ṣàlàyé pé lẹ́yìn ìjíròrò tó gbópọn tí wọ́n ṣàgbéyẹ̀wò bí ìjọba àpapọ̀ ṣe kùnà láti tẹ̀lé àdéhùn tó bá wọn ṣe lọ́dún 2020 ló mú kí wọ́n ó ṣàfikún àkókò ìyanṣẹ́lódì wọn. A rí gbọ́ pé ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ ẹgbẹ́ ASUU wòye pé lẹ́yìn tí wọ́n tún dìjọ gbé àdéhùn náà yẹ̀wò tí wọ́n fọwọ́ sí lọ́dún 2009 fóṣù kan ṣoṣo tí ìgbìmọ̀ tí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Nimi Briggs darí ti yiri ọ̀rọ̀ náà wò níjọba àpapọ̀ tún kọ̀ láti wójútùú sóhun tí ẹgbẹ́ àwọn olùkọ́ fásitì tí wọ́n ń béèrè fún. Àwọn ọmọ orílẹ̀-èdè yìí tí ò láǹfààní láti forúkọ sílẹ̀ fún káàdì ìdìbò alálòpẹ́ wọn kó tó di wípé ètò náà parí ti fẹ̀dùn ọkàn wọn hàn lórí ohun tó ju wọ́n rí pẹ̀lú bájọ elétò ìdìbò ṣe lóun ò ní fọjọ́ kún àkókò ìforúkọsílẹ̀ náà mọ́. Lásìkò tí wọ́n bá àwọn oníròyìn sọ̀rọ̀ ni wọ́n ṣàpèjúwe bí àjọ INEC ṣe mọ́kùn dé bá ètò náà bí ọ̀nà àti fẹ̀tọ́ wọn dùn wọ́n gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọmọ orílẹ̀-èdè yìí. Àrùn ti pé nímúra sílẹ̀ fẹ́tò ìdìbò gbogbogbò ọdún tó ń bọ̀, àjọ elétò ìdìbò bẹ̀rẹ̀ ètò ìforúkọsílẹ̀ fáwọn tó tó ìbòdì láti oṣù kẹfà ọdún tó kọjá. Tájọ náà sì lérò àti mọ́kùn dé bá ìforúkọsílẹ̀ yìí lóṣù kẹfà ọdún, àmọ́ tí ẹgbẹ́ àwọn ajàfẹ́tọ̀ọ́ ọmọnìyàn lóríṣiríṣi gbé ìjọba àpapọ̀ lọ́jọ́ 5 oṣù kẹfà pé kó tún sún ètò náà síwájú. Nígbà tó ń gbé ìdájọ́ rẹ̀ kalẹ̀ lógúnjọ́ oṣù kẹfà, onídàájọ́ Mobọ́lájí Ọlájùwọ̀n pàṣẹ kétò ìforúkọsílẹ̀ àwọn olùdìbò tẹ̀síwájú láti wá tẹ̀lé àṣẹ ilé ẹjọ́ àjọ elétò ìdìbò sún ètò náà di ọjọ́ 21 oṣù keje tí í ṣe àná. Àmọ́ síbẹ̀ àwọn ọmọ orílẹ̀-èdè yìí ló tútú yáyá jáde láti lọ forúkọ sílẹ̀ kí pínpín pé ó tó pin lórí ètò náà tí wọn ò sì rí ṣe. Ìròyìn fi hàn pé ẹgbẹ̀lẹ́gbẹ̀ àwọn ọmọ orílẹ̀-èdè yìí ní ìpínlẹ̀ Niger, Kano, Èkó, Katsina, Benue, Ogun àti Enugu tó fi mọ́ olúùlú ilẹ̀ yìí ni ò tí ì ráyè ṣe ìforúkọsílẹ̀ tó pin fìdí bá ètò náà, tí àjọ INEC sì sọ pé àsìkò tètò náà fẹ́ wá sópin làwọn ti ṣe bó ṣe yẹ kí oore. Ẹgbẹ́ àwọn dókítà onímọ̀ṣègùn òyìnbó tí wọ́n ń ṣiṣẹ́ lábẹ́ ìjọba ti sọ pé bíjọba bá kọ̀ láti dáhùn sí ìbéèrè àwọn ṣe làwọn yóò gùn lé ìyanṣẹ́lódì lórílẹ̀‐èdè yìí. Alága ẹgbẹ́ àwọn dókítà náà, dókítà Dáre Ìṣáyà, nínú àtẹ̀jáde tí wọ́n fi síta lópin ìpàdé wọn tó wáyé ní Láfíà ní ìpínlẹ̀ Nasarawa, ní gbèdéke ọ̀sẹ̀ méjì ni wọ́n fún ìjọba láti rí i dájú pé ọ̀rọ̀ ìdẹ̀rùn àwọn ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ tí wọ́n ń béèrè fún ni wọ́n ṣàtúnṣe sí. Bákan náà ni wọ́n tún béèrè fún owó àjẹmọ́nú àti àjẹ́lẹ̀ tí ìjọba jẹ wọ́n lọ́dún 2014, 2015 àti 2016 pẹ̀lú ẹ̀kúnwó owó oṣù wọn tó ti yẹ kí ìjọba àpapọ̀ ṣàmúlò láti ọdún díẹ̀ sẹ́yìn. Agbẹnusọ wọn, dókítà Yusuf, ṣàlàyé pé ẹgbẹ́ náà yóò tún pàdé lópin ọ̀sẹ̀ méjì tí wọ́n bá fún ìjọba láti lè gbé ìgbésẹ̀ tó kàn. Àjọ elétò ìlera lágbàáyé ti sọ pé 8,000 àwọn èwe tọ́jú orí wọn kò ju ọdún 5 lọ ni wọ́n ti ń gbé àrùn hepatitis B kiri. Èyí jẹ́ nínú àkọsílẹ̀ tí àjọ elétò ìlera lágbàáyé gbé jáde pẹ̀lú àlàyé pé 11,461 àwọn ọmọ orílẹ̀-èdè yìí ni wọ́n sì ní àrùn náà. Bákan náà làkọsílẹ̀ ọ̀hún fi hàn pé orílẹ̀-èdè 19 tí wọ́n tó 8% nínú 100 àwọn èèyàn wọn ni wọ́n lárùn hepatitis B, pẹ̀lú àlàyé pé orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà ló lákọsílẹ̀ tó pọ̀ iye àwọn èèyàn tó lárùn náà láwọn orílẹ̀-èdè tó wà ní Áfíríkà. Ó kéré tán èèyàn 7 ló kú ní fọnáfọnṣu lákòókò ìkọlù tí àwọn agbébọn kan tí wọ́n fura sí gẹ́gẹ́ bí darandaran ṣe sí ìjọba ìbílẹ̀ Gúúsù Jos ní ìpínlẹ̀ Plateau. Ìwà ìṣekúpani yìí ló wáyé lẹ́yìn ọjọ́ kan táwọn bíi 18 pàdánù ẹ̀mí wọn lásìkò ìkọlù tó wáyé láàrin àwọn jàǹdùkú àtàwọn ikọ̀ ojúlàlá kan fi ń ṣọ́rí níjọba ìbílẹ̀ Wase ní ìpínlẹ̀ náà. Alukoro ẹgbẹ́ àwọn ọ̀dọ́ tí wọ́n pè ní Beron, ọ̀gbẹ́ni Ruwan Tengwong, ló fìdí èyí múlẹ̀ pẹ̀lú àlàyé pé èèyàn 7 ló gbẹ̀mí mì lágbègbè Dandachogi lákòókò táwọn Fúlàní darandaran náà lọ kọlu ìlú wọn. Ẹ̀wẹ̀, àwọn aláṣẹ tó jẹ́ ti ètò ààbò ní ìpínlẹ̀ náà, níbi tá a ti dá àwọn ọlọ́pàá àtàwọn ikọ̀ amúṣẹ́yá tó wà ní ìgbẹ́nu ètò ààbò nípínlẹ̀ ọ̀hún, kò tí ì fi àtẹ̀jáde kankan síta láti fìdí ìkọlù náà múlẹ̀ pẹ̀lú àwọn tó dágbére fáyé. Lórí ìròyìn eré ìdárayá, àjọ tó mójútó bọ́ọ̀lù aláfẹsẹ̀gbá ní Áfíríkà CAF ti kéde oṣù kẹta ọdún tó ń bọ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọjọ́ tí ìfẹsẹ̀wọnsẹ̀ kò mẹ́sì ó yọ láti kógojá fún ìdíje ife ẹ̀yẹ AFCON yóò wáyé láti fáwọn ikọ̀ agbábọ́ọ̀lù tí yóò lọ ṣojú Áfíríkà láàyè láti gbáradì ṣáájú ìdíje ife ẹ̀yẹ àgbáyé tí yóò gbéra sọ lóṣù kọkànlá sí oṣù kejìlá ọdún tá a wà nínú rẹ̀ yìí. Bákan náà làjọ CAF fìdí ẹ̀ múlẹ̀ pé ìfẹsẹ̀wọnsẹ̀ láàrin orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà àti Guinea-Bissau ti di sísún síwájú. Nínú àtẹ̀jáde kan tájọ náà fi síta lẹ́yìn tí wọ́n fìdí ẹ̀ múlẹ̀ pé àwọn ti sún ìdíje ife ẹ̀yẹ Áfíríkà ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kẹrìnlélọ́gbọ̀n tó yẹ kó wáyé ní orílẹ̀-èdè Ivory Coast lóṣù kẹfà ọdún 2023 sí oṣù kìíní ọdún 2024. Òun ni ọ̀rọ̀ yìí tó ti jẹyọ. Nílẹ̀ òkèèrè, ọkọ̀ ojú omi àkọ́kọ́ tó kó oúnjẹ ní wóró láti pápákọ̀ ojú omi Ukraine ti gbéra lábẹ́ àdéhùn tí wọ́n ṣe pẹ̀lú Russia. Àwọn aláṣẹ orílẹ̀-èdè Turkey àti Ukraine sọ pé láfẹ̀mọ́júmọ́ òní lọkọ̀ ojú omi náà gbéra níbùdókọ̀ ojú omi tó wà ní Odessa. Láti oṣù kejì ọdún yìí lórílẹ̀-èdè Russia ti gbàkóso ibùdókọ̀ ojú omi Ukraine, ṣùgbọ́n sórílẹ̀-èdè méjèèjì gbà láti jẹ́ kí wọ́n máa fóúnjẹ ṣọwọ́ sílẹ̀ òkèèrè báyìí. Ìrètí wà pé ìgbésẹ̀ yóò fòpin sí ọ̀wọ́n gógó oúnjẹ lágbàáyé tó oúnjẹ yóò sì tún wálẹ̀. Orílẹ̀-èdè Turkey sọ pé ọkọ̀ ojú omi Sierra tí wọ́n pè ní Razoni yóò dáṣẹ́ dúró ní ibùdókọ̀ ọkọ̀ ojú omi tó wà ní Tripoli, tí gbèsè sì ti ń wáyé láti jẹ́ kí wọ́n tún kó oúnjẹ míì ṣọwọ́ sílẹ̀ òkèèrè lọ́sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀. Istanbul ní ibùdó tí wọ́n gbé kalẹ̀ láti máa kó àwọn oúnjẹ náà sí, tí ìrètí sì wà pé ọkọ̀ ojú omi náà yóò gúnlẹ̀ lọ́la tí wọn yóò ṣàbẹ̀wò sí. Akọ̀wé àgbà àjọ ìṣọ̀kan àgbáyé ọ̀gbẹ́ni Antonio Guterres ní ìgbésẹ̀ náà jẹ́ ètò wúni lórí. Ó gbóṣùbà fún Turkey fún ipa pàtàkì tó kó nínú àdéhùn náà. Kò ní jù báyìí lọ lórí ìròyìn ìrọ̀lẹ́ fún ti àkókò yìí. Ẹ darapọ̀ mọ́ wa láago 8:30 alẹ́ nígbà tá a máa mú àkójọpọ̀ ìròyìn tòní wá fún yín. Ẹ kú ojú lọ́nà.